Welcome everyone to another fabulous episode here. We are so excited you're here. We have a really special episode here today that is going to be very different than most likely anything you've heard before, experienced before. We're really going into the Akashic Records of Gaia herself and really exploring the concept of New Earth. And I'm going to let Shiloh kind of give a little bit of this backstory of how this episode even came about and why we're even on here doing this episode right now and what the relevance is and importance of it and why now, right? Why now? That's the big question here in all of this. So welcome, Shiloh.
Yes, amazing. And why now is such an important part of that, right? Because it really weaves in just this beautiful divine timeline that's coming forward that the earth, that Gaia herself is wanting to share with us. And so we were really tuning in to wanting to do an episode on the Akashic Records and bringing some information. And we're really tuning into, well, what does that look like? Do we just talk about it? Do we actually do a live session? And of course, in order to access the Akashic Records of anyone or anything, we need permission. And so, we would need to bring someone on the show to do a record session, or even maybe, myself do one on Ava. But we were tuning into like what is really going to be the highest and best. And what came forward was Gaia spoke up and said, "You have my permission." And so we took some time of, well, are we sure? Like, do I really have permission from her? Is this just something that my ego is wanting to say? And so we actually did we'll say like a practice kind of session with this, of where, Ava brought DiYeena in, and I opened my Akashic Records and went and connected with Gaia and asked for her permission. And she said, yes, you have my permission to open my Akashic Records and bring information and be a conduit for her at this time and share some messages that she has for humanity. And the beautiful thing about that, and I'll first and foremost just say, I have so much deep reverence and honor and gratitude to even have the opportunity to be with her, to commune with her, to open her Akashic Records. And so just know that I'm in deep reverence of that, and that we, Ava and I said a prayer before we came into this space. And so just know that this episode it's a very sacred container. It's a very sacred space. And so just, yeah, being in deep honor and reverence for everyone that's listening here as well and receiving the codes. And the reason why the divine timing of this is so beautiful is when we were tuning into that, we're like, well, what are we going to tune in? What kind of questions are we going to ask her? And we were all excited and just this awe and wonder around it. And instantly it came forward of there's information around New Earth, of how it's being birthed and what we need to know as humanity being here and assisting with this evolutionary process that's taking place, because Gaia is going through her own evolution just as we are too, right? She's shifting timelines just as we are too. And we're doing that, we're weaving together. And, Gaia has been here for it all, right? And so there were also timelines that she was showing me glimpses of Lemuria and Atlantis coming forward as well. And so there were some interesting pieces that she was wanting to show me and to bring through in this container. And, Ava is going to share a little bit about DiYeena in a moment, but her and I were going back and forth and really tuning into, okay, how are these timelines that we're on right now? It's almost as if she was showing me that we are in these parallel timelines to that time. And there's a lot of clues, or maybe some things that had happened in that timeline that can be shared with humanity at this time to serve us, so that we maybe don't make and I don't want to even say mistakes, because I believe, everything's happening for a reason, but just so that we can learn from history that's been made. And of course, that history has been covered up as, some sort of an imaginary, mystical, made up land, right? And so the history of what actually took place at that time was covered up. So how do we know to learn and not repeat what we have done in the past or in the past, right? Because it's these different timelines. If we aren't even told the truth about some of the things that have taken place in that time. And so I'm just in holding this. I'm in this place of awe and wonder with all of you. I have no idea what's going to come through. None of this has been predetermined. You know, Ava and I were speaking before we hopped on this of neither her and I, and was actually surprising to both of us, but neither her and I have really ever studied Lemuria or Atlantis. You know, we're very connected up into the galactic realms, but these kind of earthly experiences that have taken place here, we don't have a lot of actual information. And so everything that's coming through is just being channeled through. And I believe that there is a divine, you know, alignment in that, as well as we're not meant to be even using the information stored in our brains for this. It's really coming from Gaia. We're really bringing it up from her. And so just know that this is all a channeled conversation. And we're going to bring in DiYeena as well. And so Ava, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, or if you want to share with the viewers who DiYeena is and what that process is like for you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shiloh. So, for those who aren't aware, or for those who are tuning in for the first time, welcome. I am a trance channel, and I channel a frequency known as the living Ma. And what that means is there's some beings that are connected to this frequency that I have an agreement with, a conscious agreement with, to be in right relationship with, so that they can actually borrow my body to bring forth information for humanity at this time. That's part of this process of helping us evolve in consciousness together. So the main being that comes through, her name is DiYeena, as Shiloh said, and she's a Pleiadian. And others that come through include Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, and some other beings as well. DiYeena is really the most funny. And she's my gatekeeper, you know, so she's there and she comes forward to bring forth this information. So the way trance channeling works, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is I just take a little bit of a back seat in my body, and she comes forward and has permission to speak and animate and be in it as though I am right now. So that is kind of how that works. And I just, because she's explained it to me before as well, where do you go? And when I'm in your body, or, you know, so like when DiYeena's here, where do you go, Ava? And what I was told is that we just switch spots. So I'm up there hanging out with the Pleiadians and my Pleiadian family. And I don't know, maybe my Pleiadian mother is brushing my hair. Or I don't know what's going on. But it's kind of like that. And it's kind of like the experience of trance channeling, because that's also another curious question. Is it feels like when you have a dream, you wake up from a dream and you know you've dreamt, but you don't quite remember all the details of the dream. That's kind of how it feels. It's like a nice, deep, satisfying meditation where maybe you have a few thoughts coming in and out, but in general, it just feels like a lot of stillness, a lot of quiet. And it's very healing for my body in particular, when the Pleiadians are in there. So it's actually very, very loving. So without further ado, she's really been here. She was really so supportive in this first go around with Gaia and Shiloh, and just it's just really, as you're going to notice here, you know, Shiloh has opened, right? Is that what we want to say? That the record is open? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah, so we took some time before we hopped on the call. I took some time to go into deep meditation. I opened my own Akashic Records, and I have been trained in this as well. So this isn't, you know, any kind of new experience for me. And so I've opened my own Akashic Records, and then I've gone in and accessed the Akashic Records of Gaia with her permission. I really sat with her for a few moments to really connect and commune with her heart before I had the permission to go ahead, so we could create that circuitry and open her Akashic Records. And so I did that before we hopped on, just because it's a bit of a long meditative experience. And of course, that doesn't really work well when we have, you know, listeners on a podcast. And so just know that the records are open. And so as soon as DiYeena comes in, we can go ahead and start the channeling session. And I guess just for anyone maybe listening, I'll just do a very brief, like, what are the Akashic Records? We're going to do another podcast where we deep dive on that. So I'm not going to spend too much time, but just for anyone that's like, oh, I've heard that term before, but I'm actually not quite sure what that is. Maybe a lot of you are familiar, but just a brief, kind of understanding of them is it's every word, thought, deed, action, feeling, emotion, anything that has been experienced through anyone on an individual level, and then the earth as well. It gets stored in an energetic library of information. And this resides in the seventh dimensional field known as the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records is, just as Ava was saying, like, DiYeena is her gatekeeper. The gatekeeper of the Akashic Records is Metatron. And so always with his permission, bringing him in, honoring him in the space as well, and then having permission to access that. And so anything that has ever happened on this earth plane, individually on a soul level and for the earth, has been stored. And so we have the ability to go in and access that information and then channel that information through. And so I'm not sure if anyone has ever channeled the Akashic Records of Gaia before. I'm sure it must have been done at some time. I don't want to say like, oh, this is a first, but I will say that I've never heard of anyone doing it before. So we'll see how it goes, but that's just a little brief overview of what the Akashic Records are.
Beautiful. And for those that are really interested in this, Shiloh's actually a teacher in this. So she has a whole school for you to go and learn how to be an Akashic record reader yourself. So for anyone that's interested, we can drop a link in the show notes as well. How often do you run that program, Shiloh? Once a year?
A few times a year. It's a 13-week certification program. It is accredited. It's called Akashic Academy. And so, yeah, it's one of my favorite things to teach. It's such a powerful program. So if you're interested in popping in that at all, I would love to answer questions or hold space. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and just go right out and put you in touch with the Pleiadians, bring DiYeena in, and then we can get started with this conversation between Shiloh and Gaia and the Pleiadians and see what kind of information we can bring you around New Earth. So with that, I'm going to go right out and put you in touch with the Pleiadians. Greetings. This is DiYeena, you see, of the Pleiadian family. You are here with the love. You see, we are loving to love all of you here, all of you humans here. It's so beautiful to be in the communion with you all, you see. And welcome, dear Shiloh. We are feeling Gaia very, very strong, you see. It's very, very beautiful. So we can feel we are already engine on, ready to go, revving up the engine, you see, ready to hit on the gas. Is this correct?
Yes.
Very good. You see, so before we do that, we are going to honor the Gaia Earth with a little sip from her body. You see, we have a little tea here from her. Let us see where we are on the planet, you see, right now. And so gratitude, so much gratitude, because this is such a sacred container, such a sacred moment, you see, because this is not a common occurrence, you see, to really be in this level of communion with the Gaia, you see, herself, you see, to share her thoughts, her stories, you see, like sitting around a campfire with your great of as many greats as you can go great of the grandmother, you see, Gaia herself, you see. Wow, that is a special treat. That is a special treat, you see. So let us see where we are. Oh, very good. Oh, it's so hilarious because we are drinking the mushrooms. This is an inside joke for anybody that has been following along with the DiYeena, Shiloh, and the Ava for a little bit now. Perhaps if you've watched some of the previous episodes, you'll get the joke that it is hilarious that we are honoring Mother Earth by drinking the mushrooms, you see. Why is this so funny, you see? Well, because we have the extraterrestrials bringing the mushrooms. This is why it's so funny. Haha, not from the Earth originally, you see. So it is funny. It is funny, you see. We get the joke. She's laughing along too with it. It's very, very good, you see. Ha, ha, ha. But let us get going with this all, because this is a very sacred moment, you see, where we're here with Gaia, We are here with Shiloh. And really, Shiloh, we are going to really let the conversation roll, and perhaps we can really support in the whatever the questions in, because we are sure that the humans are curious about what the details. If we are going to go into the new earth, it's one thing to say, oh, there are maybe the same flowers, maybe a few different trees, maybe, but what is really different in the ways the human beings are interacting? You see, are we using monies? You see, there's artificial intelligence? You see, what kind of houses are we living in? You see, what is the way that we're interacting? You see, things like this. You see, the really juicy bits and bobs about how we are actually living the life, I think will be very interesting for your people. You see. So perhaps some things like this as we go along, you see, but we have a very clear message here from the Gaia, first of all, you see, as we are paralleling the timelines of Lemuria here. It's almost like a redo, you see. This is really the new Earth situation here is a redo, you see, from that time. And I can tell already the guy is talking and bringing forth some information. So Shiloh, my dear, what would you like to communicate here right now?
Yeah, I actually have a few things coming through, and I'm just really trying to tune into where is going to be the most loving place to take this. Because I have a clear message of Christ consciousness coming in, and it's attuning to the actual earth grid as well. And so I'm just tuning into if that's how I want to start it, because
yes, because she would not give it if this was not the right place to start.
Okay, great. I just figured, wow,
so
this is really
important.
Yeah, I just figured, wow, this is really packing a punch right out of the gate.
Yes, well, your viewers are ready for the punch, you see. They're coming and listening to a Pleiadian speaking through a human, you see. So they're ready for the punches, you see. So what you call the no holds bar, you see. Is that how you say it here in the world, you see. It's really ready, you see. Humans are ready for this, you see. This is really the truth, is that humans are very ready. They're hungry, they're thirsty, you see, for this level of communication, for this level of the depth of the storyline here. And this is not starting too big for anyone that is going to be tuning in. And if it is, then they have already clicked away. So it is fine.
Yeah, I'm actually, so what I'm seeing is a big part of what is going to be shifting moving into the new Earth timeline is what she's showing me is that we're going to start to see things shift with wars coming to an end. And what she's showing me, the reason why it's so important for wars to come to an end and that peace is starting to be birthed into our planet, is it actually has to do with the physical blood.
Yes,
As
my
physical
dear.
blood is she's showing me being shed on the battlefields in these wars, that the frequency of the blood, because our blood holds the codes of Christ consciousness is within the DNA. And so as the actual the frequency of the blood through the trauma, it's being it's distorting the grids. It's keeping the grids in, or maybe distortion is not the right word, she's saying. It's keeping the grids in a place that it cannot evolve or bring in a higher frequency because of the charge, I keep hearing distortion in the blood because of the frequency of how it's being laid. And so the information that's stored in the DNA that's now through a traumatic frequency being laid on the actual grids, her grids in those places are having a hard time evolving, which is why I'm also hearing of why there's war on the actual Holy Land. That is there's a strategic kind of placement in that. But I'm also hearing her say, that's shifting. There's going to be that is coming to an end. That chapter is closing, and it must end. It must come to a close for her grids to be able to activate in the way that they're that the frequency in them are like pulsating. Like I'm just seeing like a pulsation. And so a message that she has for humanity at this time is that that if you are somebody who has been praying for the wars on the planet to end and praying for peace, what I'm seeing that she's actually asking for humanity is for anyone that knows how to do grid work to actually send their love, send this frequency from the heart, and assist in the grids in these places that are really having a hard time through the frequency of war. And so that's the first visual that she's showing me.
Very good. And you see, the other piece to this here is within the frequency of the blood, you're talking about Christ consciousness, you see, and eternal life. You see, we have these stories that have been a little bit mistranslated through the lines, you know, down through the religious lines, you see, but the original concept was life eternal within, you see. And so that is the original blueprint, is life eternal within, you see, and that is within the DNA, within the bloodline, you see, within the blood itself, you see. And so when you have then all of a sudden the distortion of the blood is really the turning it into the frequency of death, eternal within, you see. So it is the opposite, you see. And so when you have that frequency going into the earth, you see, it is creating a circuitry then of that death circuitry rather than the eternal life circuitry, you see. So that is the difference here that is being activated through the wars, you see. There is some kind of native prophecy of when the men's stop the bleeding on the earth and the women's start bleeding again on the earth. This is going to create the right circuitry, you see, back on the planet, you see. Because the women's blood, you see, is connected to life, you see. The menstruation, you see, contains the fertile grounds, you see, for the life everlasting, you see. And it's all kinds of mysteries within the blood, you see. And so we're not sure if the Gaia has any clarity or additions to add around that particular part of the blood circuitry.
Yeah, let me just tune in and see what's wanting to come through around that in particular. So, okay, so something else that she's showing me with that is the circuitry for the actual blood itself. So she's reminding me, and this is something that I've heard you say before, DiYeena, of that there's also there's this wholeness that's being asked to be like balanced within us first, so that it can come out in this way of like you're saying, being like life-giving. And so I'm seeing that we're all being called internally to come into our in balance with the masculine and the feminine counterparts, because it's in that wholeness that when the blood actually sheds, that there's a frequency, a circuitry with that. And I'm even seeing, like, you know, because she holds the feminine. Okay, no, she's saying that she holds the feminine, but she's also in wholeness herself. That she has the feminine frequency, but she's saying it's going to be hard for my human mind to understand how she can hold both the masculine and feminine, but also be the feminine powerhouse, but there be wholeness balanced within that, within the circuit.
It is very easy. We'll help you with that one, my dear. It is the same way that we all are choosing a form. You see, Gaia chooses a form as well, you see. So you're choosing a female form, female anatomy, you see. It is like that in the sense where you are still having the masculine frequencies, the feminine frequencies within, but you chose a feminine form to play that all out with, you see. And so you can have a very feminine energetic, you see, and still be in wholeness, you see, and still have the right balance, you see, because that is simply the fire or the way that you're choosing to move the frequency through the form, you see. But it does not mean that you're repressing the masculine to do so, you see. This is why she can create anything, you see, from fires to hurricanes to whatever the case, you see. She can go in any direction because it is in the wholeness, you see. You see, so it is like that. It is just simply her preference to do so through the feminine frequency, you see. But again, it is not a preference in the sense of more or less from one or the other, you see. And that is really the frequency of the 13 is the divine union, is the eternal life within the form, you see. And so we've talked about this frequency many times at least on one podcast, perhaps on a few others. We definitely talk about it inside the membership. So if you are not a member, you get in the membership and get these activations all the time and the deeper storylines here. So we talk about the 13 a lot in there because it contains the codes of what we're exactly talking about here, of the activation of the frequency when you are in the frequency of the wholeness, meaning you yourself have worked out all of the issues, the traumas that you have within the frequency of the feminine and the masculine within yourself, and you have brought those two together so that they are dancing together as one. You see, they are snuggling up on the couch versus sitting on opposite ends of the couch. They are really in the right union, they're the right relationship, you see. In that place, you can create anything. You can create another one. You see, create another baby. You see, you can create, you can get up and dance. You see, you can go and just do whatever, you see, because you're in the right wholeness. You're in the right frequency of balance and union, you see. And it is that frequency. It is that frequency that when the women's bleed contains the blood of life. Is this to thy understanding?
Yes, yes. And just as you were saying that, that's the piece that I'm seeing that she's sharing, that there's a transfer of the wounding of the blood, that frequency of the blood through the trauma, through the wounding, through the, as you said it earlier, the death is what she's saying, and shifting that where the pendulum is swinging into life force, into peace, which is really what we're evolving into. And so the blood is one aspect, but it's an important aspect. And so that's why she wanted to bring that forth. And she's even sharing of, and this is something that I had come through a little while ago, of even songs, worship songs that sing about the blood of Jesus and how it's this purification. It's like it's the blood internally within us that holds these codes, holds the DNA. And what she's saying is, energetically, she has she has DNA. Those DNA strands are plugging in, they're weaving alongside us, and I can hear like this drumming, this harmonics, this rhythm that she's bringing us back into, which is what you were speaking of DiYeena, of the 13, right? Of the frequency of the 13, which is nature. It's this cyclical cycle, which is why we've been stripped to being in her natural rhythm and flow, and even being in, right, these massive cities, these concrete jungles where we're on her, but we're not connected to her. We're not in communion. We're not in circuitry with her. And so there's a deep yearning for humanity, is what she's showing me, that she's calling them back home to their own system of 13. So that humanity, okay, this is what she's showing me. We're being called to our own system of 13 because she's already plugged into her system. She already has her DNA strands plugged in. New Earth is already thriving in this timeline, and she's calling us. I'm almost hearing it like a mother calling her children home, that she's calling us to this new Earth paradigm of remember, connect with me, be in rhythm with me. And so it's the harmonics, it's the frequency, it's the harmonics of the 13 frequency that's actually, I'm seeing like us being magnetized back to her.
Yes, my dear, that's a very good way to put it, you see, because it's already in existence, you see. This is sometimes hard for the mind to get, you see, but the heart knows it very well, you see. That this reality, all realities already exist right now. The ones that feel like they were in the past, the ones that feel like they are in the future, they're all happening simultaneously, you see. This is an important part to remember. We know some of your people are very connected to that fact, you see. Others having a little hard time making that jump to say, what do you mean that the new Earth is already here? You see, that doesn't seem right because my eyes show another story, you see. So understanding how it works with the magnetism, and that is connected to the blood, the direct connection to the blood, you see, because the magnetism is in the blood, you see. So when you are moving through frequency, there is a physicality to it as well. You see, it is not just manifesting your best life ever in this very new age kind of way. You see, there's actual physicalities that are shifting within the form in order to meet that new timeline of density. You see, that new timeline of reality. You see. So that is also part of it, you see, is that there is literally a change happening within the frequencies and within the physicality of the body, you see. And that is really part of it in the bigger storyline. And it is her children yearning for their mother, you see. This is what is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so the reason why she brought that, I mean, one of the reasons why she brought that forward was to show that what I'm seeing is, and I don't even know if this, is, recorded anywhere, but what she's showing me is that Lemuria and Atlantis were at war with each other, and that there was bloodshed that happened through the Lemurian, through the Atlantean timelines in a similar way. It different than what's happening here, but it's the similar frequency of what was actually shed. And I'm even getting a message, and because the mushrooms are in the space, and DiYeena, that you're here, that it's something similar happened on, and I know that this isn't about this is about Gaia, but she's showing me that something similar that happened on Lyra, on when the fall of Lyra happened as well. And for anyone that's not familiar with that, that's a galactic system, and Lyra, in my understanding, is it's no more. It was wiped out, but yet then all timelines are happening simultaneously. So it's, again, hard for our humanness to understand how that can all be. But what she's showing me in that is that it's we're really being called into awareness of what the message that she's giving is, where are you putting your awareness? And even with the wars, are we pouring our attention into, she's reminding me of I'm just tuning in for a moment. She's reminding me of something that was said by, she's saying, I believe it was Mother Teresa, that she would never go to a war rally or end wars rally or something like that, but she would go to a peace rally. And so Gaia is calling us to take our power back. And taking our power back is awareness. Where is our awareness? Where are we pouring that awareness into? Are we pouring it into the war and the destruction and the fear paradigm? Or can we pour peace from our hearts, love from our hearts into those grid lines, bring love into those spaces instead of fear, because it's helping us shift out of that aspect. And so I'm seeing this parallel timeline that's coming forth with Lemuria. And what she's showing me is that new earth is the birthing of, she's saying, like, the Lemuria that could have been, or the dream of what was there for Lemuria that then never actually came into fruition, never actually came into manifestation. And so what I'm even seeing with Lemuria is that it's we're still very much a water planet. Like, that doesn't, like, I'm seeing that that's not shifting, but the water itself is different. Like, the frequency of it is different. The buoyancy of it is different. I'm hearing that, like, even the sea creatures, sea animals in it are different. There's an evolution that's taking place, not only for us. Like, what she's saying to me is that, and I've never really thought about this, but that all life has DNA that's wanting to be expressed in a new way, that there's light bodies on all life on earth that are coming alive, coming expressed. So the trees, the animals, the water, our air, the elements are going to be different. I'm just seeing everything is like the density out of everything has been lifted. And so it's almost like everything is being embedded with a crystalline structure is what I'm seeing. She's showing me that it's community living, that we're not so much in these separate spaces anymore. We're coming together, we're communing, we're coming back to a community-based remembrance and aspect of how we're meant to be doing things is together in community. Um, I just want to tune in and see what else she's wanting to show me with that. I'm getting a message that there's no money, that it's an exchange, that everything is an energetic exchange. And so because money is this still this dense almost materialism, it's like there's still an exchange, but I'm almost feeling like it's something beyond what we can even imagine here. It's like a heart. I'm seeing that it's coming from the heart. It's energetics from the heart. It's not actually like a physicality, let's exchange. And even though when we think of, anyone that's probably listening to this, the term of like money is just energy. And so it's like the message that she's giving me right now is that we manifested money through the original blueprint of actually how exchange is done energetically. And so we say that it's just energy because in these higher realms, it is just that. And there's a circuitry of that. Does that make sense of how I'm sharing that, DiYeena?
Yes, a little bit. We feel like it could be clearer for some of our viewers who maybe are hearing something like this for the first time, you see. And part of it is really understanding just how different the world around you will look and feel and operate, you see, to really understand how a world with no money would work, you see. And it's really understanding that even the density is shifting so much that the ways that you are in circuitry with your world around and the people around and everything around, you see, is also different, you see, because you're not in the same level of density. The quote unquote nourishment is also different, you see, not needing so much of the food, so to speak, you see, even the ways of being in the ways of living itself, you see, are much easier to be taken care of through the frequency of the earth herself, you see, rather than feeling like you need to put on the coats and create the roofs and have the monies and have the animals, you see, to survive, quote unquote, you see. It's a much more fluid relationship with the earth, you see, that is coming out of the heart's desire for experience rather than the necessity for survival, you see. And this is a big shift in perspective. So when you recognize that the whole circuitry is out of a desire for experience of love rather than a necessity to survive, to stay alive, well, then all of a sudden the whole perspective shifts. All of the way, the motive behind why we exchange then is very different, you see. So everything then is a frequency of the heart, because it is simply a desire for sharing energy with another soul, you see. It is less about I need to have to feed my family today. We are all out of the food, you see. So we're going to go and trade a chicken for some milk or whatever it is, or for some basket weaving or whatever, you see. It is less about the survival in itself, you see. Now, it does not mean that no one will eat, you see. There will be some that will choose that, you see, but and others that will do so more for the experience of enjoyment, you see, to be in the circuitry with it, you see. So it is the free will to do so still, you see, but it is not out of necessity. Is this making sense, my dear Shiloh?
Yes, no, that's making sense, absolutely. And, it gets to be more out of an enjoyment than an actual necessity. And, it's interesting, DiYeena, because just as you were sharing that, she was just showing me something. She brought me down into the center of the earth, and I was just sitting with her and communing with her. And the center of her core, I always see it as this crystalline sphere, this it's not so much this dense, like molten lava, maybe on one level it could possibly be, but And I know there's a lot of people that don't even believe that the earth is a sphere, that it's flat. And I'm just tuning into what she's wanting to share, because when she just brought me down there's a doorway, and she's showing me this doorway, and she's expressing to me. She said that my frequency is not able to enter into the doorway, but she's going to share a little bit with me about the doorway itself. I'm seeing it being it's code. It's literally not, it's not a physical door. It's an illumination of light. It's all of these different encodings. And she said this door is leading to the new earth paradigm. And the message that she's giving to me with that is, she's saying it's beyond, no, that's not what she's saying. Let me just really tune in here. She's saying that the truth of what this all is, the truth of how we're evolving, the truth of our reality, the truth of her physicality, of how she's manifested, how she's evolving with us. It's so beyond what we can, I don't want to say comprehend with the human mind, but she's saying like, um, what is she saying? I keep hearing like, there's gonna be a twist that nobody saw coming, is what she keeps showing me or saying to me. That it's almost like what I'm thinking, what I'm trying to think up with my human mind, she keeps pulling me back into my channel and showing me that there's a deeper truth that no human has cracked the code to yet. That even how I just said, like, flat earth, are we round, or like, what is really going on here? She said nobody has cracked the code to what the truth of of her truth. She's saying no one has fully cracked the truth of her truth. But what I'm hearing is it's going to be revealed through the hearts of humanity, that the answers are through the hearts of each individual person on this planet. It's through the circuitry with her. It's through the communing with her. And I don't know if there's anything that you want to add to that, DiYeena, but she just keeps showing me that, like, she's showing me this door, and I keep trying to go through it or decode the encoding. And I believe that the encoding is some sort of a clue. Like, there's going to be some sort of energetic reset, almost like the like how we upgrade a computer, right? I'm just seeing that there's like this energetic kind of like recoding. And then as the recoding happens, the recoding's happening within our blood, is what she's saying. It's like the recoding in the DNA, the recoding of the earth. So that's what she's showing me, that those codes are representing her DNA, is what she's saying. And I'm not able to go through the threshold of what's there.
Yes, because you've not gone to the threshold within yourself, you see.
Yes.
You see. So this is for everyone, you see. So she's a mirror, a holographic mirror of you, you see. And so it's hilarious, you see. Flat earth, round earth, you see. Well, what shape are you? Are you flat? Are you round? You see.
Uh-huh.
It is more dynamic than that.
Yeah.
It is more alive than that. It is
Uh-huh.
more than either. It is not an either or, so black and white, you see. It is much more alive, you see. And it is much more connected to your hearts. And this is why she's giving you the codes to the hearts of humanity, their own crystalline core, you see, within the own heart, you see, with their own coded door, you see, for each one to walk through, you see. She has walked through her door. She has walked through her door of codes, you see. She is in the frequency of the wholeness, you see. So this is the pathway for all the humanity to come into their own frequency of the wholeness in their own hearts, you see. And it does, when you come into that frequency, everything, your whole perspective is like a computer upgrade. It is like an automatic new perspective, new reality, new shift like that, you see. It is simply a matter of physics in that way, you see. Is this making sense? Maybe she's having some commentary on the on DiYeena's commentary.
Yes, no, she's very much agreeing, and I'm still down in this space with her, and it's hard to even express or put into words. It feels so sacred. And what you just said of the it's so much more connected, it's so much more sacred. It's just more than what we're even tuning into, and that's why she's very clear of like nobody's cracked the code, right? It's like it's not this, is it flat, is it round? It's not that black or white. It is so much more, I'm wanting to say complex, but she's saying that it's not so much complexity, it's just it's beyond what we're capable of understanding with where we're at right now. And so we want to put it into this little box, but it's so sacred. And so she's reminding us to come back into our hearts, to come back into that cyclical connection with her, of even trying to be in this like battle with the what people believe is the truth. And she's saying that like the truth is beyond. Like, can we come into the awe and wonder and open the imagination of what is in the infinite possibilities? What are we, what is unfolding for us here? Because even that is like, it's so, she's saying it's so limiting that people are missing the point by even getting stuck in that paradigm to expand your bandwidth further. And by further, she means deeper into the heart than you ever have before.
Yes. And even to say, if you are trying to name a truth, a truism, you see, well, you've already missed it, you see, because a truth is in an infinity of movement, of constant movement, of that is really, truth is never static, you see. So anytime you say, well, I know the truth, you say, well, you can know, quote unquote, a truth, quote unquote, through your perspective of particularity within the infinite spiral, you see, for that particular level of fractalization in that particular moment of breath, you see. And even that is a very stretch, you see, because it is really much more than that. So we have to be careful about saying we know, or we're seeking the truth, you see. If you are saying you are seeking the truth, you will never find, you see, because you cannot pin it down like that so easily, you see. And even the conversation itself, we've talked about this, how it is hard to have a conversation when you're even using these terms like enlightenment or liberation or things like this, you see, because even that is putting it in a box. Well, now we know the truth of who we are, you see, we've gotten there, you see. Again, one angularity of perspective from one little moment of fractalization in consciousness of a whole that is constantly an evolution of consciousness and expansion in infinity in both directions evermore. It is really, you cannot even be in the grasping of understanding. It is meant to be in the awe of expansion. You see, it is meant to be in the awe of expansion, you see. And you are in continuous expansion. And this is why when you go into the heart, there is no end. This is a code, you see. There is no end. This is a secret. This is a piece, you see. This is a clue on the path for you all, you see. There is no end.
Yes, the infinite spiral. Would you say it like that? The infinite spiral.
Precisely.
Yes.
You see. And we are feeling like we get to be the interviewer today, you see, a little bit, because usually the other way around, my dear. Usually you're asking DiYeena the questions, but perhaps we have a few here, you see. Well, that was earlier, you see. So it's really curious to know about this everlasting life in this new earth. I think people are going to be curious for one, if it is eternal life, if there is death in that particular realm, what the Gaia would have to say about that. And then the other piece would be, in the, what was the other question? Perhaps we start there. You see, maybe we'll get the other question as we start starting that conversation. It's probably a very short answer from her. If she's allowing that type of information.
She said yes and no, that it's available. And what I'm seeing is that and what she's showing me is that we have the ability to live much, much longer, like way longer than what we would, like I'm hearing like thousands of years. And we also have the ability, it's almost like here, right? Getting to choose, do we want to experience the death, or do we want to experience the immortality? What I'm hearing is it's the both and is what she's sharing.
Yes, very good. And then what about the curiosities of the humans who would say, well, what is actually happening with the 3D meat suit, you see? What is happening in that transition, you see? Are we getting rid of the body? Are we dying, you see? Are we taking it with us? What is happening there in the evolutionary process of coming into this expanded version, you see? What would the guy have to say about how this would be explained?
I'm just tuning in. She's not sharing much about that specific. I'm seeing a mass amount of people that it's almost like there's she's not like saying specifically, but what I'm seeing, what she's showing me is I'm seeing like an alchemization process happen with the light body turning on, if that makes sense. An alchemization of the density. It's like the physical body doesn't actually need to go anywhere. It's like, it's just like she's showing, I guess she's showing me instead of telling me, but what I'm seeing is like, as the DNA plugs in, it'll immediately shed the old physicality, like she's showing me in the same way of like what happens to a dragonfly. And I don't think it's necessarily like shedding a piece of us, but she's just showing me there's an alchemization process that takes place that's already encoded in the physical body. It's actually how the physical body is designed through the plugging in of the DNA, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense, you see. We've gone through this process as well, you see. We're trying to play the, what you call the devil's advocate, you see, or just trying to tune into humanity here, a little bit of hearing the questions ahead of time so that we can do our best to really support everyone with their questions, you see. So this is very well said, you see. Is there anything else coming through for you, or should we dig a little more, you see?
Yeah, I'm feeling, and just what she's showing me is that, and just a reminder to humanity, is she's saying to really release the fear of the unknown, of the not knowing of what's taking place. She's showing me how beautiful the transformation of humanity will be, how beautiful her transformation will be. And she's just bringing me to a place that I've been before in Hawaii, where to me it was like heaven, where I'm looking, I'm seeing paradise. What she's showing me, that because what she's trying to tell me, or what she's showing me through that lens, is that there is a paradise that's being birthed on our planet. Like, if we're just out in nature, it's so beautiful everywhere. And so that amount of awe, that amount of beauty, think of it being up leveled, or going through an evolution or a graduation. I know that there's places on the planet that it takes my breath away. I couldn't imagine it being any more beautiful, any more serene, any more peaceful. And she's saying that there is more of that. in the evolution of her. And that we, you know, if we take a moment and see how we've been held and supported in, I'm going to say quotations, hell, right, is what most people feel like we're experiencing right now. And I say that in quotations because I know that that maybe is a triggering word. um and I don't want to even perceive that that is something that exists. um but in a place that is so dense, it can be so painful here, that we've still been held through that. So what would it feel like for you in this transition, in this shift? Imagine the support, imagine the safety, the wholeness, the abundance, the prosperity, the awe, the wonder, that there's no reason to fear what is happening, because it gets to be beyond anything that we could ever imagine here that we've experienced thus far.
This is so beautiful. You see, we love this vision. You see that we are really kind of weaving into, and even in the dream weaving of this, you see, we are really in the amplification, you see, of this process. You see, which is really beautiful. You see, so the obvious. This we're hearing more questions. Very fascinating. You see, so we're a little bit stretching out the time a little bit here to really hear the questions. You see, we're hearing the question around the trauma that is stored in the physicality. We are assuming it would simply shed off, you see, in this alchemization process. You see that there would not be the carrying the frequencies of the traumas in the new forms. Is this accurate?
Yeah, let me just tune in to what she's wanting to share. Yes, I'm seeing that what she's sharing right now with that is it's why most of humanity has been walking a dark night of the soul, that we've already been in process of releasing the density. And when enough of the density, enough of the trauma has been released from the physical body, whether we're in our healing journey or not, everyone is going through their own evolution, whether they're conscious of it or not, is what she's sharing. Just by being here on the planet, everyone's going through, right? I think, you know, you said something similar, even about truth, of like, everything's always changing and evolving. And so as we continue to move up this spiral, I'm seeing the density of the physicality. We're going through a somatic release collectively. And then when we get to a certain point of of the shift out of density into this higher frequency, and that is what's going to allow for the plugging in of the DNA. And then once that plugs in, then the alchemization process, it's almost like I'm just seeing like light wash through through the physicality, but we're already releasing it. It's almost like we're in preparation for that to take place.
Yes, very good. And then what about with like the families, the children? What's the family life like? You see, we would imagine generations. You see, of generations all around. You see, but in the communities. But we want to check in and see what the mother has to say about this.
Mm. Hmm. Yes, I'm seeing that who is available to be connecting into this paradigm. I'm even seeing like those that have maybe already passed over, or actually like they're waiting, like many lines of ancestors, beings, family members. I'm just hearing that it's a reunion, it's a coming home. And so I'm seeing many people gathering, many families gathering. You know, this was a question actually that I've had before from my community of, is anyone getting left behind? And what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing in that is those that are open and available for these higher frequencies are making the shift into this space. And and that's what she's showing me right now, of like almost like a splitting of these realities that are taking place. And that's how it's also parallel from the Lemuria and the Atlantean times, because she's showing me that technology has something to do with that as well. And so there's a choice point, but what I'm hearing is eventually everyone makes it there, but there's a timing to there's a timing to and I'm she's saying don't use the word time. But I don't know how
It's
to
very good. She's on my time as well, on my process too. This is good. We are bodies in that way. So
yes. Yeah, no, she's just like laughing because she's like, don't use the word time, but there's a cycle. She's saying there's a cycle that's taking place for those that are ready, and then there's a cycle that's taking place for those that are going through this splitting of staying in the density, that are maybe not ready, that are, and I've heard you talk about this, DiYeena, before, of like the choosing of it, disconnecting more from nature, disconnecting more from God's source universe, from our own humanity, by plugging into maybe these microchips or the things that are happening with technology. And so there is a splitting of worlds that are taking place, but she's saying that in the end no one gets left behind, and so there's just cycles that are happening.
Exactly, my dear. This is very important because this is going to be sensitive for certain people that are watching this, you see, because they have loved ones that are very much on this track, you see, that they are literally watching their loved ones split off into these other worlds, you see, and it's very, very painful, you see. And so it is very, very important to hold the compassionate sensitivity for the pain in the heart that is experienced when we have the illusion or the perspective of a quote unquote losing. We know this is only the experience. This is not in the reality of the whole. You see, you can never lose it because it is part of you. But having the experience where it feels lost, you see, where the relationship feels lost for a time, you see. And to trust that there is going to be almost like a washing process, you see, that is going to bring the peace to each decision, you see. There is going to be a peace to each one's decision to do so. So the ones that are choosing the technocratic pathway, you see, it is a choice point. They're very into it. You see, it is important for their soul's growth. It is important for the whole of consciousness. You see, to see, well, what is it like to pretend to be cut off from source? What is that experience like? You see, you can only pretend for so long before you have to kind of get back on the page. You see, of what is real. You see, in the reality of it all. But it is fun to pretend for a little bit. You see, so trusting that those that choose that, having fun pretending. You see. And when you can really get on board with that and really honor the souls that are choosing that and really really understand why that one would choose to do that. Like, it really makes sense to me, you see. And to just trust their path, you see. And trust that you are going to be at peace with that, you see, in the new earth experience as well. You'll not be up there mourning the loss and unable to join the party, so to speak, because there's a frequency thing, you see. So there's a washing, a cleansing that's taking place as well within all of that, you see. So that is a little bit what is happening, you see, but she's right. You see, there's no permanence to it. You see, there's no permanence to it. We all join the party at the end of the story.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's such a beautiful image that she's showing me of that there are cycles that we're going through, and there's a lot of us that are on different parts of that spiral that are going up, that are evolving, but to really trust that everyone's soul has signed up for what everyone's soul has signed up for. And so trusting the cycles that we're in, trusting the pathways that everyone in your life is taking, including yourself, how we're being called to go through certain healing journeys and transformation and experiences to really meet ourselves so that we can find our way back into the depths of our heart space. And she's just saying to decode our own doorway and find our way through that doorway into the heart, because it really is this embodied spirit experience. It's this emanation from the 0 point that exists within our heart, that's wanting to emanate out. It's desiring to be in communion with each other and with the earth and be back in that cyclical journey again. And so it's in this cycle of the forgetting to remember. And I keep hearing and seeing that this journey is so beautiful, that we've all said yes, that we're embarking on here together. And it's beautiful not only for us, but it's also so beautiful for Gaia. And so there's also a message for her in the ways that, you know, how she's saying that there's a lot of fear around the paradigm of, you know, we're destroying her, she's dying, and all of that. And she's saying, yes, we can make better choices, yet she also knows what she's doing, right? And so there's no, she's saying, like, she's not in a victim, she's not helpless to what humanity is doing on her, like we see it. That you know, and again, she's saying, like, once you are connected to earth, once you're connected to her cyclical journey, you're going to honor her. You're going to be in the sacredness of not wanting to destroy her and throw trash in her oceans and all of these things. But what she's saying is she also knows what she's doing. She also knows what she signed up for. And she's not a victim in this, that she's really here as this powerful, loving being that is here to support us, just as we are here supporting her. And that's it. That's in the cyclical journey. That's how we support her, is by communing with her, by honoring her, by being in the sacred, remembering the sacredness of her in that communion.
Oh, these are good words. These are good words. More questions are coming through, if this is okay. You see.
Yes.
So what is the storyline with the souls that have chosen Lemuria or Atlantis, you see, specifically perhaps Lemuria, you see, and those that are choosing this new earth paradigm? Are these the same souls doing their redo, or is there a mix going on? This is a question we're hearing.
Oh, that's a great question. She's saying that it's a mix, and for the reason why it's a mix is it is the same souls, and yet there was a call for extra support.
Yes.
And so all of those that had experienced Lemuria are here, and experienced Atlantis are here, and there are many more, is what she's saying.
Yes, primarily from neighboring towns, so to speak.
Yes,
perhaps?
other star systems is what she's
Yes.
saying. Yes.
Yes. Very good. So that is a curiosity, you see.
Mhm.
Another one is very, very simple questions like, what does the homes look like?
Mm. So she's filtering through quite a few different looking ones. I'm seeing a lot of dome shapes, like, that don't have corners, that really work with the energy, like in a cyclical kind of dome thing is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that they're all I'm also seeing, like, it almost looks like castles, but not in the density. Everything is very like crystalline structure, yet kind of fluid. It's hard to put words to it. I don't really know how to explain how something can be crystal but be fluid, if that makes sense. But I'm seeing large buildings where many people commune together. And then I am seeing smaller dome-like structures where maybe, like, where it's not so many, but families are still communing. And I'm seeing everyone sharing spaces together. It's very communal kind of spaces, and communal living spaces. Um, and I'm seeing everyone sharing spaces together. It's very communal kind of spaces and communal living spaces. Um, And what I'm hearing is that everyone is the energy exchange that happens is not so much for, like, it's all service from the heart is what I'm hearing. It's all service from the heart. And so there's no, like, having to go work somewhere that you don't want to be. It's like it's everyone is living, breathing their soul essence, and they're serving humanity from their heart, and that's where the exchange comes in this cyclical way. But I'm seeing many different looking buildings, a lot of dome and a lot of larger, and they're crystalline, yet they're fluid structures, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, you see. Another question is around the energy, you see. Electricity, heating the homes, anything like this that would people have the curiosities on these very basic things, you see.
Mhm. What she's saying to me is she has a direct line to the great central sun, which is how everything is powered.
So how does that transition happen then? You see, we have to elaborate a little bit here, Gaia,
Mm,
you see. These
okay.
human minds want to know, you see, having a little bit more to chew, you see. We get the paradox in the whole thing, you see, but just humor a little.
Um,
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Yes, we get it.
yeah. She's saying that there's something I don't really know exactly what she's saying, or it's not that there's something wrong with our sun. She's not saying that because it's part of the system here. But there's going to be an opening, a stargate. There's a stargate that opens, and it gives us access to the great central sun. So it's in a similar way that we have access to our sun now. There's just an opening that comes through that's all part of the design. And there's so in the split, what she's showing me is in the splitting of the earth, there's technology that's disconnected from self, disconnected from nature, disconnected from God, source, universe. And then there's technology that's in harmony, in resonance with these higher frequencies that can hold and harness high amounts of energy that's coming in from the great central sun. And so what I'm seeing is she's just showing me that there's an opening where that energetic is able to come through, and she's just saying, like, in a similar way to how our sun is now, and that there's technologies that are in resonance that can like absorb it and then I don't know the word, but like bring it into a structure that is usable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then let's just go right for it, you see. So what in this Stargate opening, you see, where the shifting the central sun, the access point, you see, at what level of the activation of the DNA would she say that this is as happening at?
Mm.
Because this is important part.
I'm hearing that the full shift is in the 13 strands coming online.
Precisely.
Mhm.
So this is very important, you see. So it is saying that when we come into this frequency of the 13, the original blueprint, this is the final portal opening, so to speak, the Stargate opening into the frequency of the 13, when enough of us have come into balance of shedding some of these traumas in the form of the density in the form, then the activation of this 13, you see, is almost what you could consider effortless in a certain way, you see, because it is happening as a whole. It's like we are all one big caterpillar in a cocoon waiting to spread out the wings, you see, as a whole, you see. And, or you could say, you could use a dragonfly metaphor, or however you want to say it, you see. But we're all going through together, you see. We're all much more connected than we realize, you see. So this is important to understand, you see, how this is all connected here. And maybe she has some more visions or pictures coming through for you.
Yeah, I'm just tuning in to what else she's wanting to share.
Does it look the same? Do we have the grass? Do we have the trees? Do we have the flowers? You say we have the water, but it looks a little different. We have some animals in the water, but they're a little different, you see. It is all a little different, a little less dense, a little more crystalline, you see. Does it mean we still have the grass, but it feels different in our hands as we're rubbing it through? Do we still have the clouds and they just seem a little different? Or is everything looking much more technicolor and very, very different? What are you seeing, my dear Shiloh?
I'm seeing some things look similar. I'm not really seeing clouds. She's not showing me that. I'm not sure why. But I am seeing like it's almost as if like she's bringing me through nature, and it's almost as if like the trees feel alive because they are. So what she's sharing is that we're going to have the ability to commune with nature in the way that we commune with each other. It's almost like we can sit down, like she's showing me like sitting down in a forest and actually listening to the wisdom of the trees in the way that you would listen to your grandmother speak and share stories. And so it's like that. It's like it looks different because everything is alive. And I know that that sounds silly because everything is alive here now, but we don't look at it that way. And so our perspective, our awareness to the aliveness, to the intelligence of the plants, of the grass, of the animals, of the trees, of nature, it all comes alive. And I'm just hearing that we're able to connect to it in a higher way, or in a more where the translation is there. We can hear it, we can translate the information. It has something to do with the crystalline structures. It's almost like the crystalline structures are like I don't really know how it's hard for me to explain because I'm seeing this stuff for the first time myself. So I'm like, okay, whoa.
You're doing very good, my dear Shiloh. Very good.
Yeah. So my analytical mind is trying to catch up. It's like, okay, cool.
Precisely, you see. So it's very different, you see. And another part to that is that the more density, you see, the more slow moving it appears, you see. So you have the natives do talk to the trees. The natives are in this communion, you see. And when the natives get stripped from the land, you see, we know these stories very well. You see what happens in the history, you see. They get taken over by humans who are not connected in that way, who do not know how to connect and be in communion in that particular way. And so it is all of a sudden you have one that comes back around that is still connected in that way, and the trees get all excited. They say, well, everyone stopped talking to us. What happened? You see. And so it is like that, you see. And the rocks too, you see. The rocks communicate too. It's easier to hear when they get heated up a little bit, you see. But they communicate as well, you see. So it is not that it is not happening in this density. It does happen. It's available, you see. This takes deeper listening, perhaps slowing down quite a bit more, you see. And so what she's showing is that there is just more fluidity within that circuitry, you see, that it is more in this the resonance of communion of circuitry in an easier way, you see, more fluid, you see. It's because the density is not quite is there, you see. So it is very good. This is fun. This is very fun, you see. We are so grateful for you, my Gaia. My God, we're so grateful for your wisdom, for your love, for your compassion, for your sharing, you see, for your humor, you see, for your bringing forth the parts that are really important, especially the part around not being in the victim, you see, and really bringing forth the frequency of your power, you see, and that you really do know what you're doing, you see, and that we can really trust a little bit more. These are all very important parts. We're just really feeling very grateful to be in circuitry here. And we know that it's going to be very helpful for the humans that are listening, you see. So thank you very much, my dear. Perhaps we ask if there is any other pieces that would like to be shared around this New Earth experience, you see. What would be helpful, and not to say that it would happen in a faster way, you see, because we get the divine timing of it all, and we are don't want to hurt her feelings by saying that word, the T word, too many times in a row, you see, haha, you see, as we even had to say it to do, you see. But we will joke around a little bit and just say, is there anything that we can really give the humans that will allow the shifting in the frequency to be able to hold in this vision or to hold in this frequency a little bit easier, so that the process of the shedding is really quite not effortless, but perhaps feeling that way a little bit. Is this making sense in the question?
Yes. Yeah. Let me tune in and see just what she's wanting to share here. So the message that she's giving is that of one of simplicity. She said that the evolution that's taking place, it's something that cannot be stopped. It's something that is in motion. It's coded to be in motion. It's always been coded to be in motion. And that our inner evolution as well is also coded. And so she's reminding me, she's bringing me back down to my heart with that encoding on the door. And she's saying that, she's saying that we all have our own code to decode, to unlock. In the same way, she said it's almost like a game, right? Like we like cracking the code, figuring out what the code is for you to then unlock the door. Like she's saying that code is also, it's also a lock on the door, because we can't step through that paradigm until we're ready, and we must go through the process of unlocking the code to bringing the frequency all online. And so she's reminding, just as she said earlier, of like, she's not a victim, that we all chose individually to be here, and that it doesn't actually have to be this complex thing. It's a game, it's a puzzle that exists within the heart. And it's not a game out of she's saying like it's a game that's been created through the foundation of love. That it's not something where there's like a trick trap door waiting for us, or like something lurking around the corner that we cannot see. And that's the fear piece of the unknown, and also the fear of death that is coming up for humanity at this time right now as well. And she's saying, can we go into our hearts? Can we commune with others? Can we connect it into her sacredness and the sacredness of all things and all beings, and come back into that communion? She's saying to dreamweave of what is it, because she's making it very clear too, like this isn't, like we're evolving with her, right? And so even though how she's expressing what Earth looks like, and it's so different than what we perceive it to be right now, yet it's not at the same time. And I mean that in the sense of nature is, it's like nature is still there. We still have water, we're communing, we live in buildings, right? It's beautiful. We have sunshine, which is like coming from a different aspect. So things are just like shifted at different. I'm almost hearing like, if you think of like parallel realities, right, of even the Mandela effect, it's like things look similar, but they're a little different. It's like, can you spot the difference in this? And so we're just incrementally shifting to this evolutionary process. But she's reminding everyone to go into your hearts, to unlock your own sacred code in the heart space, and to have fun with it, to play with it, to not take it so serious, to not be afraid of it, to not be afraid of your power, to not be afraid of what lies behind that door just because you can't see it. So that's the reminder from her.
Oh, this is very powerful. This is very good, my dear Gaia. And 2 more questions come from the humans in that beautiful transmission, if we can, you see.
Yeah.
So the 2 questions, we will try not to use the time word, but that was the way the question came. So we'll say cycle instead, you see. But the first question is a really simple one, and perhaps it was already answered, but not explicitly. So we just want to make it explicit one way or the other, of whether there are seasons in this new earth, in the same way that we experience seasons in a climate where there would be seasons, for example, for a season type of thing. And then the second question that kind of connected in the terms of cycles, and perhaps if she does not want to use a time, a specific date or time in the way that we relate to it, perhaps is how many cycles of seasons you see, how many winters, for example, in the 2 till we are in the new earth experience, you see, something like that. People are wanting to have this idea of what, when this, you say the cycle is already encoded, you see, so it is already unfolding. Well, is there anything that you can give us that will give us an understanding of that frequency of the cycle that we're coming into, when this one will be in completion and when the new earth cycle we will be in? Is this making sense to you?
Yes. Just as you were saying that, immediately she said 6 cycles of winter is what I heard.
Very good.
And so I'll leave that I'll leave that as.
Well, let's say it here, because some people will be listening to this not necessarily within the next week of this launching, you see. So we are in the cold of the winter in the northern hemisphere of the 2024 to 2025. This is when this is getting released into the public view. So that puts us at what does this put us at? Around 30, 31?
Yes, 30 into 31. Yes. Yeah, I'm hearing there's something really powerful about the winter solstice in 2030, that cycle. Something with the solstices specifically. She's just saying that there's always a powerful unlocking on the solstice, but something specific in 2030 with the solstices. And she's saying that to not fear that, again, to not be afraid of what is behind the door, and the access point that we all have through our own hearts. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it's not, more magical, amazing, beautiful than we could ever even dreamweave or imagine with our human mind. And she's also saying that's why she's having not I'm not hearing a hard time, but she's even expressing to me what I'm able to translate through my own being. Because even with channeling, right, we have to translate through, it comes into the being, and then I translate through the visuals, come through my subconscious mind. And so she's showing me symbolism and what I can understand. But that's why she also keeps saying, when I even bring it back to the flat earth and the round earth, that it's beyond what I could even translate from her. And so she's able to give me some layers of it. But it's beyond even what we can translate right now, because of we're only plugged into 2 strands of DNA. And that's why the door is taking time to be in the encoding process. But to the seasons, let me just tune in and see what she wants to share of, if is there seasons or is there not seasons. DiYeena, she's not giving me anything directly with that, but what I am hearing is it's almost like a time of it's like a time of rest. It's a cycle of, like, I'm not seeing anything of, like, you know how winter can, or not just winter, but, I'm in winter right now, so that's why that came forward, but, like, weather can be harsh, right? She's saying that harshness softens. And so even how we know seasons to be, it will look different. And she's just saying that there's a softening because our seasons are hard, right? It's freezing outside. It's everything dies here because it's cold. And if everything's alive there, then how can there be this kind of death cycle with the winter and the destruction of how some of these weather patterns can in different seasons can just create a lot of harshness. She said the harshness is no longer there. It's a softness.
This is beautiful. So then to kind of build on that question, you see, what we're hearing now is the curiosity then around, well, what we are experiencing here. You see, some of us, especially those who enjoy the seasons, maybe we're skiers, we like the snow, whatever the case, we're crazy like the cold weather, we just like to shiver in our homes, or whatever the case may be, or like to look at the snow falling. We like to be in that frequency to say, oh, it has a sweetness to be in the seasons. We feel connected to the pulse of nature, of Mother Earth, you see. But what we're also hearing in the meta communication is perhaps that it is not completely aligned with the original blueprint, you see. And so we're just asking for a little bit of clarity around the seasons that we experience right now and why that would be so different in the other one. We hear the rest part, you see. But really, is the seasons that we experience now with the cycle of death in there part of the original?
Mm. Hmm. I'm hearing no, that it's not, that this cyclical nature of the 13 is, she's sharing, is much different. And I'm just trying to tune into what is that like? What is, and it's really hard for me to translate what's coming in from her.
Well, the 13 is the life everlasting, you see.
Mhm.
It is a timelessness, you see. It is a step out of time.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, she made it very clear that, like, how our seasons are now, it's too harsh. It's, we're still in this death cycle here, and so that must shift. There must be a transformation. And so, even when she brought me into the forest of how everything is just more alive, I'm just seeing how, okay, so she's bringing me back to the great central sun. And she's saying that is actually what shifts the seasons, shifts the to the original blueprint, is the something's going to happen with the frequency of the great central sun. And that is what actually shifts the seasonalities. And so I'm not seeing I don't really know how to, I don't know how to really explain it, DiYeena. It's just like the cycles that we know, to be, are not in the original blueprint of the evolution. And the reason why is because we're actually in a different system through the great central sun, not the sun that we know it to be. And so even the moon, I'm seeing that there's a different system with the great central sun, is what they're showing me.
We were just going to go there. So this is good that you're going there first.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, she's showing me, and then I also have, beings out here that are helping, showing me too, because it's like expanding out. And so I'm just trying to understand. Like I said, I'm learning all of this right now in real time with all of you. And so I'm trying to translate it and understand it, just as much as you are. But there's a shift. And so the sun and the moon, I'm seeing, are part of this paradigm. And so as we expand out and the great central sun comes in, it shifts how how the whole paradigm of nature is structured. But I'm trying to ask more questions of like, what does that structure look like? And that's what I'm having a hard time actually translating that information. It's
Ask,
very,
ask her to show you the original moon.
mm, I'm seeing the color red, very vibrantly red for some reason. I don't
Yes.
know. Does
Yes.
that make sense to you?
It makes total sense, you see, and you will have many of your beings that are watching here go, yes, we remember that.
Mm.
We remember that, you see. So can she share a little bit about the history of the moons that we know it now, you see, on the Earth? And is she willing to talk about that at all?
Let me tune in. She's sharing with me that like the moon that we know it now to be is, let me just tune into this. The moon that we have right now that we know it to be, it's part of this cycle and this paradigm that we're in now, but it is assisting us in coming back into this cyclical nature with her. And so even though i- she's wanting to make it very clear of like, because I've even heard this, like the moon is bad, the sun is bad, right? And she's saying none of it is bad. It's all part of the system. It's all playing its part to awaken us to our truth. And so even right following the moon cycles and tuning into I've seen people share something of like after the last eclipse, like the sun is different, and she's just saying that there is a higher orchestration that what we can imagine, and none of it is bad or wrong. It's the system is in place to awaken us to our truth. And so I'm just trying to get information specifically on the moon. She's just really wanting us to know that like the moon isn't like bad or wrong.
Yes,
It is part of the cycle to awaken us to our truth.
precisely. This is very important to really to focus on, my dear Gaia. So this is very good place to go with it, you see. What we are curious here is in the cycling, you see, because there's so much that is cycling around this particular moon frequency, the magnetism and all of this with the waters and the moon cycles and the ways that we count and all of these things, you see. So is this that how is this system that is of the moon cycle assisting specifically, you see, in helping us to evolve into this 13, you see? That would be the question.
Mm. Sorry, the question is, how is this moon specifically assisting us in coming into the cycle of the 13?
Yes, like she's saying that it is part of the evolutionary process, that it is here for us, you see. So if the next step is going into this newer frequency, or free will choice, of course, but that is the next part here, is there a role that this moon is playing within it all, you see, in the way that we're cycling now, because we're going to be cycling a little differently, you see.
Yeah, she's showing me that the moon was placed there to be like what she's saying, and what she's showing me is that it was placed there to be a disruptor of the system, because the moon is in the cycle of the 13, and yet we've been put into this box of the cycle of the 12. And so the moon, what she's showing me is just like how, DiYeena, I've heard you say this before, of how like someone here's playing the bad guy part, right? And like they're playing that part to awaken maybe say the good guy. And I'm saying all of that in quotations because it's like what is really bad or wrong. But um like playing that part to have that mirror reflection back. And what she's showing me is the mirror, is that the moon is there. Why it's why we feel so called to look at the moon. It's why we feel so still in awe when we see the moon. It's not the moon itself that is activating that awe and that wonder within us. It's the remembrance of this cycle of the 13, the frequency of the 13 that lives within you, because the moon is a direct mirrored reflection of the cycle. And it's one of the disruptors in the system of 12 that is helping us without saying a word. It's just there in its cycle of 13 to remind us to be this mirror reflection. If that makes sense, it's what she's showing me.
Yes. So another way to say that is that this moon is cycling in the original 13, you see.
Mm-hmm.
In a world where we are really focused on the 12, you see.
Mm-hmm.
Just hanging out saying, you remember, you see, remember. And so it is this subconscious remembering, you see, that is taking place because it is frequency, energetics, and circuitry, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So it is keeping you in the circuitry of the 13, no matter how hard you try to forget it, you see.
Mm-hmm.
It is still there holding it, you see.
Yes,
It
exactly.
is how we would say, yes. This is very good.
Yes.
You see, so now of course you have everyone wondering, well, who put it there? If you're going to say it was put there, who put it? You see, this may not be okay to ask. You see, but this is the question that is being asked. You see, in the units.
Let me just tune in to that. I mean, I don't know if this is like a silly, if I don't really know how to put it, but she's saying, well, the same person that put the sun in the sky.
This is the best answer ever. We love it. This is the best answer. Make the humans even more upset, you see. This is hilarious, you see. We are joking around a little bit.
Yeah. What she's getting at is it's creation. It's all just part of the system that's put in place, in the same way that there's trees outside, in the same way that there's, humans on the planet, in the same way that there's animals here. It's part of the system that was placed here. It's part of the design. And so it's everything is just as it should, to continuously bringing us on this spiral of evolution as humanity, and for her as well. And as that we're in this spiral, in this cyclical journey together.
And this is a very important part to really empathize, is that no matter what part of the journey that we are on and experiencing, you see, it is already coded in, so to speak, you see. It's coded into the experience, you see, it's coded into the expression, you see. So we are never wrong, we are never off track, we are always right where we're meant to be, you see, and all of that thing, because you say, oh, well, some are experiencing this, some are experiencing that, you see, well, how much longer do we have to suffer here in the third dimension, you see, before we can have the new earth? Things like this is what the humans would say is the experience for some, you see. But to really say that it is all in divine perfection, and we know that this can feel a little bit new agey, you see. We say that in the quotations, you see, can feel a little bit like, oh, well, that is what you say when you are quote unquote spiritual, right? But it is real, you see. It is in the design of the code of creation itself, you see. And that the activation, the turning on, the firing up of all of the different encoding is in its cycles, you see, is cycling through, you see. And we are part of that, choosing to fractal to experience these cycles in particular ways. So this is what she means when she says we are not to be victims of our own reality here, our own choosing, you see, because we all did choose it, you see. And that we chose very consciously, very deliberately, very intentionally, you see, very precisely, you see. And so to really be in that frequency of really trusting all of the creation, that it is really unfolding in that perfection, you see.
Mhm. Beautiful. Yes. Yes. And I couldn't have said that better myself. It's just so beautiful. And yeah, I'm in such reverence and such gratitude for Gaia for just being here and sharing her heart with us is what she's saying.
Yes, we can feel it is activating the curiosity of remembrance in the hearts of all, you see.
Mhm.
It is activating that little crystalline, endless, bottomless pit, you see, as we'd like to say it in a joking little way, you see, to really have us all be in that deep remembrance, you see,
Mhm.
of our own coded door. So you like to say, you see, the little puzzle within, you see, that is really it is really love puzzle, you see, really love. And really, maybe not even the word puzzle, because some would really have trigger word to that word, you see. This is like, oh, going to throw in the towel right now, you see. We hate the puzzles, you see, something like that, you see. But
Yeah.
it is really specific to you in the way that you like, you see.
Mhm.
You see, the way that you like, the way that you operate, you see. It is there for you in that particular way, you see. So to really be in the understanding that you have designed perfection within, you see, to go and explore and remember.
Beautiful.
Yes, we are very grateful for you, my dear Gaia. It is
Mm.
very, very beautiful to be in the presence, you see. It's very, very special. It's very, very special.
So special.
Yes.
Beautiful. Well, I'm just wanting to tune in. It feels like maybe we'll have a part 2 coming, but
This
I'm
is what we
feeling
are feeling. We are feeling that this is not necessarily the last time we have to do. She's saying this is very, very fun. Somebody
yeah,
really wanting to know.
she's sharing that maybe this is enough for today and that we get to come back and commune with her again.
This is very beautiful. Well, we see how this was received. You see, perhaps we can get some feedback perhaps if you have questions, you can post them in the comments, you see, so that we can really see if there is a part 2 that would like to come, you see, because this feels very, very much a sacred container and very important for humanity right now. You see, we're getting some important pieces of the puzzle, pieces of the curiosity. And this is just two little lenses of perspective, 3 little lenses of perspective, you see. So every one of you that is tuning with the ears and the eyes has another perspective, you see. So this is important. You have a question, guarantee there are others with that question, you see. So pop it in the chat below, you see, and we can have this kind of conversation ongoing with the Pleiadians, with the Gaia, you see, and really bringing it all together, you see, for the evolution of humanity, you see. It's because the Pleiadians, you see, this is why we are here as well, you see. We have gone through this process, you see, on our planets as well, you see. So we've gone through this transformation, this transmutation of frequency, you see, and it is not a scary process at all. It's actually very lovely. It's very lovely, you see. So we're here just to remind you that it's okay to not be in the fear, you see, to be in the love, you see, be in the joy, be in the fun, be in the play, be in the joking around, because this is really going to make the whole thing a little bit just more pleasurable, you see. You have free will of how you would like to go about it, bump, 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 or in the pleasure and the joy, you see. So this is where you get to choose, you see. So we are here to remind you of that choice point, you see, and to say, hey, if you would like to be in the play, here we are. We'll do it with you. You see, we can play together and have fun along the way of this going into the new earth frequency. It looks like we have about 6 years of just hanging out and shedding off our traumas. Okay, well, let's play with that a little bit. You see, come into the Pleiadian light, Ascension yard, and do a little crying. You see, whatever you need to do a little laughing, perhaps a little bit of both. You see, find a way to really come in and get support during this little window of time as we all rise together in this new frequency. It's very beautiful. And we send blessings to you all from the Pleiadians as well. It is so beautiful to connect here. And my dear Gaia, we send you blessings and love as well. It is lovely to be in your circuitry. And we are also very grateful for your presence, for your willingness to share your heart, you see. And your willingness to really be in the frequency of unconditional love, really. It is really spectacular. So blessings to you, my dear Gaia. We love you very much. My blessings to you, my dear Shiloh, for holding the frequency of the mother. You see, this is not an easy task, you see. So we are very grateful that you are willing to be in the frequency of communing with her in that particular way. It's a very big blessing to humanity. So thank you, my dear Shiloh. And we send you blessings. We send everyone listening blessings from the Pleiadians. We love you all very dearly.
Thank you so much, DiYeena and the Living Ma and Gaia. Just thank you for being here with us and sharing your heart with us. And thank you, Ava, for being a conduit and just such a loving heart in this space as well. Is there anything that you want to share, Ava, before we go ahead and close up today?
Just that I trust that this message was exactly what you needed to hear today. Just feeling so much gratitude for Mother Earth and the wisdom that you've brought forth. I can feel your frequency in my heart right now. It feels very alive. It's almost bringing me to tears. So I'm just feeling very grateful.
Beautiful. I'm so grateful as well. Thank you all for joining us in this very, very sacred, special episode. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe so we can continue to bring more of these conversations and these channelings with all of you as well. So thank you so much for being here with us.
See you next episode.
Bye, everyone.